In today's episode, Salil asks, can reviewers of products on YouTube that have a large following, i.e. 1 million or more, but are not paid by companies to promote their products, example, the channel Dope or No, be called influencers? Well, yes. The definition of influence in this particular context is someone, a channel, a person, a media property, that can motivate others to take action. Right? It doesn't even have to be human. Look at how much interference by automated software can change political opinion, right? Humans may not even be the influencers, but the media channels are changing behavior. Anyone with 1 million followers, I mean, heck, anyone with 1,000 followers even, if they're the right people in your audience and you can motivate them to take action, you are an influencer. That is an influencer, right? That has some level of influence. Remember that the definition of influence is getting someone to take action, to change something they would not have otherwise done. Whether it's buy a product, even consider a product, depending on the kind of product it is, awareness. Influencers operate all across the customer journey, right? From awareness, growing awareness, to their audiences, consideration. That's where things like reviews have a lot of power and sway, is getting people to watch a review and add a product to their consideration or evaluation stage, getting people to buy something. Also getting people to remain loyal to a brand, being able to have an influencer doing brand loyalty work, showing the good works of the brand, providing support. There are any number of influencers who have channels with tips and tricks for getting the most out of the product or addressing common problems as sort of like an informal technical support. And evangelism, getting their audiences to recruit others to grow their audience and grow the brand's audience. So the real question is not whether these channels can be considered influencers, because they clearly are to some degree. By definition, if you have 1 million people following you for any reason, you have some level of influence. The real question that a lot of brands are trying to tackle is, what change can an influencer compel? How do you measure an influencer and their influence and its impact on your brand? And this to me is where influencer marketing falls the most short, because in a lot of cases when people talk about influence, they're talking about, again, big channels, big audiences, and that's not necessarily the best fit for every brand and every opportunity. There's 3 kinds of influencers, and this is something I documented in a book way back in 2016 that probably needs to get rewritten at this point. But there's 3 general types of influencers, right? There's the expert, who the reference I usually use is the way back E.F. Hutton advertisements in the 1980s. The ones that goes, when E.F. Hutton talks, everyone listens. That kind of expert opinion that lends credibility to anything. There's sort of that mayor or that hub of a network who is a literal walking Rolodex, where if you need a connection to somebody, that person can get you connected to that person, and those connections are meaningful. And then, of course, there's what a lot of folks in marketing consider the typical influencer, the broadcaster, the loudmouth, the person with 1 million followers, yelling at people on YouTube or Twitter or whatever. And a lot of us in marketing think that's the influencer. And there's these different types. And so from a brand perspective, the question is, which type of influence do you need? Do you need that expert perspective? Do you need that connection to specific parties? Or do you need the big megaphone? And it depends on your goals, right? It depends on what it is, what kind of change you're trying to motivate. That expert opinion comes in real handy for sales enablement, to be able to say, like, this credible third party has said that our product is the best, which is different than like a Kardashian talking about the product on Instagram, particularly if it's like, the server appliances. Where brands fall down and where marketing falls down is measurement. How do you measure influence? And if you're not clear on what your goal is, you can't measure it. So is the goal more sales of the product? Okay, how are you going to develop that chain of evidence, that those connected key performance indicators that indicate that the program has had success? Is the goal awareness of of your product or service? If so, how are you going to do that? Are you going to go off things like branded organic search, social media mentions, unsolicited mentions, percentage of the influencer's audience that engage with your content? Those are all potential measures that you could use. I personally would lean towards branded search because it means that the product or service has gotten into somebody's head. But there's a lot of more complicated math to make those connections. If it is leads or things like that, I'm starting to see brands use things like affiliate programs and tracking links to track influencers, and that is absolutely the right way to go, because you want to be able to show tangible activity of some kind from that influencer, whether it's website traffic or form fills, newsletter signups, something that indicates, hey, this put a lot of eyeballs right here, and this is really what we wanted to achieve, was get traffic to our site where we can take the influencer's audience and now remarket it, retarget it, harvest it, if you will, so that you've grown your own assets. One of the worst strategies I've seen brands do with influencers is pay them a whole bunch of money and not get any of the audience in return, right? The influencer doesn't do anything to grow the brand's own media channels, as opposed to something like, for example, an Instagram takeover, where the influencer convinces a bunch of their followers to go and follow the brand's handle. At least you can see something, some kind of impact from that, and then after that is up to the brand to get those folks further down the operations funnel into doing things that are meaningful. But that's where I think a lot of the questions about influence and who is and is not an influencer come into play, is based on the metrics you do or don't have. The best influencers are the ones that provide extensive reporting, detailed reporting, and show to some degree their level of impact, but also work with your brand, maybe even to help on the measurement side, to say like, hey, here's how we're going to do the tracking. These are the best practices. Let's work on this together so that you can see a return. You can see something that has meaning. Like I do a lot of work with IBM, and I provide monthly reporting to them with all the different outputs and actions and things, so that they have tangible evidence and piles of PowerPoint slides as to what has happened on their behalf. So it's a good question. Remember, influence is all about creating change. Getting someone to follow your brand handle is a relatively minor change. Getting someone to buy your product is a bigger change. Getting someone to be an evangelist of your product and put their own social handles and their own public presence behind you, that's a pretty big change, because that's like an identity change. And so those are the kinds of things that we should be thinking about when we try to define what influence is. Could go on for a long time about this. If you have questions, put them in the comments box below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.